If you try and stay on track with your calorie deficit, but the cravings hit and you end up elbow deep in Doritos or diving into a bar of dairy milk, the problem isn't that you lack discipline or willpower. It's that you don't have the right strategies in place to manage the cravings when they come up. And once you flip that switch, staying in a deficit doesn't seem that hard anymore. So I'm going to walk you through the 4 techniques that I've used that helped me lose 50 pounds and manage my cravings a lot better. Because I used to polish off a full one of these in a night. Plus, I'll also be running you through the mistake that most dieters make that lead them to overeating in the first place. Overeating for me really hit a peak at uni. Even though I was surrounded by people all the time, I'd often find myself sat in my bedroom by myself feeling lonely. And when that would happen, I'd get the craving to eat chocolate. And for the most part, I'd keep myself busy on an evening with social events on or attending sports clubs. But on the evenings where I had nothing on, that's when I found myself reaching for a bar of dairy milk. Or if I didn't have one, I'd end up walking around to the local co-op or Tesco's and buying whatever chocolate was on for £1, because that's when chocolate bars cost £1. And within 10 minutes, I'd be back in my uni bedroom cracking a bar open and been through it in usually under 30 minutes. Now at this point I was also struggling with depression, so it felt like those feelings of loneliness were just amplified even more, and they were coming up pretty consistently, which meant this cycle was happening 2, 3, 4 times a week. It wasn't a great place to be, and it wasn't until I noticed that feeling lonely actually triggered the craving of chocolate for me that I was able to change it. If I hadn't have spotted that common thread, I wouldn't have realised that's what was going on. That's why understanding what triggers your cravings really helps you to change them. A few common triggers for cravings are things like tiredness, boredom, loneliness, stress, anger, but other triggers are available. But knowing what your triggers are means you can figure out what you need to do to satisfy that feeling. So next time you get a craving, just check in with yourself. How are you feeling before you got the craving and how are you feeling now? Use this to spot patterns and trends, and then that will help you make change. Change comes from self-awareness, but you need to be self-aware first. Once your brain has formed a habit, it does as much as it can to cut down the energy it needs to do to execute that habit. So when it gets a cue or a stimulus, it knows exactly how to react. Minimal energy needed. In my case, when I feel lonely, I eat chocolate. Loneliness is a cue, the reaction is eating chocolate. So if we want to break a habit, we need to create space between the initial cue and the reaction. Now, there are 2 different ways that you can create space: physical space and mental space. Physical space means creating distance between you and the snacks. If you can put any foods that you commonly crave out of sight, out of mind as soon as you get them in the house, this is going to help create space for you to respond. And if you can physically move to a new space, it's going to help you make a more goal-aligned choice, just because there's that little bit more friction between you and the bar of chocolate. And mental space means setting a timer for 10 minutes and distracting yourself, journaling, meditating, colouring in, painting by numbers, petting the dog, doing something to distract yourself and get you out of your own head. Anything to create space between the thoughts of food and you. That space is going to make it a lot easier to make an informed choice, and that's the key part. We want to make a choice here. Now, in a perfect world, after those 10 minutes have passed, you're not going to have the craving anymore and you can move on with your life. But if that's not the case, here's what to do. There are 2 parts to this: short-term hunger and long-term hunger. In the long term and in the context of your life, you want to make sure you're getting in enough protein and fibre. These 2 things will help keep you fuller for longer. That's also going to make sure you're not exacerbating any cravings with actual hunger. And a quick test to tell the difference of if you're actually hungry or if it's a craving. If it's hunger, you'll eat anything. If it's a craving, you'll probably want that one specific thing. For example, when you get a craving, you'll probably want something sweet or salty, versus when you're hungry and you could eat, well, anything. As my mum says, you could eat a scabby donkey. Beautiful imagery. Once you're getting in your protein and fibre, if you can eat in a regular eating structure, something like 3 meals and 1 snack, that works really well as well for making food predictable for your body. Now, on a more short-term basis, and going back to our 10-minute timer, if the 10 minutes have passed and you've still got cravings, then you're going to go get yourself a decent portion of what you're craving, but you're going to have it with some protein and fibre. That's going to make sure that your hunger is managed, but it's also going to reduce your risk of overeating on a food that's usually quite hyperpalatable or high calorie. This could be something as simple as having some fruit with some protein yogurt or Greek yogurt, plus the thing that you're craving. I'm a big fan of having a protein yogurt and having that with some grapes and Maltesers. Works a charm. You still get a decent portion of the food that you're craving, but you're also not likely to end up completely eradicating your calorie deficit because of it. And the final strategy is the thing that most dieters get wrong. But before we get to that, if you want to learn how to lose weight and keep it off from a long-term weight loss maintainer, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, because that's exactly what I talk about around here as someone who lost 50 pounds and has kept it off. Most dieters, especially those that have only ever dieted using diet culture-esque methods, will have probably cut some foods out of their life during a diet. We've all been there. You say that you're going to cut out all of the bad foods. That means no chocolate, no crisps, no sweets, no fun.
No!
Then eventually you slip up and that spirals into overeating. Because, well, you've already messed up, so what's the point? This has even been described by the people who've studied it as the what the hell effect. Now, I know personally that whenever I've tried to ban foods, it never ends well. If you told me that I couldn't eat this bar of dairy milk, you can bet that is all I would be thinking about. But when I've found ways to include them in my diet and, well, enjoy them, I actually find it much easier to eat a reasonable portion because they don't feel scarce. If you can take this approach overall and show yourself compassion when it comes to your cravings, and focus on the bigger picture and providing a good context of food, that means making sure you're getting enough protein and fibre in, you'll be on your way to minimising your cravings and stopping them from destroying your deficit. And if you've enjoyed this video and you want to keep hanging out, then make sure you check out this video next.